all honorable dignitaries and participants here at the virtual platform for the International E-Conference. The topic of today's International E-Conference is using gamification to enhance EFL learners' pronunciation. The college is Sri Kumaraswamy College, Ausa, is in district Latur, state Maharashtra, and is affiliated to Swami Ramananda Tirth Marathwada University, Nanded. The college conducts various innovative activities for its stakeholders, students, researchers, teachers, intellectuals, academicians, and knowledge seekers. The college is able to conduct all these activities because behind it there is the inspiration of Honorable Principal Dr. M.M. Betkar sir, who is also the chief organizer and chairperson of this international e-conference. On behalf of the organizing committee of International E-Conference, Sri Kumaraswamy College, Ausa, I heartily greet you, sir. Today I feel immense pleasure to welcome Honorable Dignitary Arzije Ameti ma'am from North Macedonia. She is going to enlighten us on the topic, as I mentioned before, using gamification to enhance EFL learners' pronunciation. On behalf of organizing committee of International E-Conference, Sri Kumaraswamy College, Ausa, I heartily welcome you, ma'am, as the chief guest and keynote speaker for this international e-conference. All the participants who have joined here from around the globe and different parts of country, India, are very eager to listen your keynote speech. So without spending much time, I would like to request you, ma'am, to start your presentation and keynote speech. Please, ma'am, welcome.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Hello, dear participants, dear organizing committee. Professor Dr. Betkar, thank you very much for your invitation. I'm really happy that I'm here today with you, and I'm very eager to continue my presentation on a topic that I have prepared for you. As for my education background, I just wanted quickly to tell you that I have finished my bachelor, my master's studies, and recently I have enrolled in a PhD program for English language and teaching. And today, my topic is about the research that I have done during my MA studies. It's about using gamification to enhance EFL learners' pronunciation. We know that pronunciation is a very important component in English language pedagogy, but however, not every teacher, not every educator tends to use it in a language classroom. And we can say that this topic has been a discussion for a very long time. But however, despite this situation, it has been the most ignored and omitted area of language teaching and learning due to teachers thinking that this approach or this method is not or this particular language aspect is not necessary in language learning and devoting time to it. That's why I have chosen this topic. I have chosen to do this research because there are not many researchers done in this area, especially teaching pronunciation through gamification. So I saw that there was a lack in literature and especially in teaching pronunciation, where very few studies have been conducted in this area. And also I wanted to do it so I can see what are students' perceptions, what are their attitudes towards this approach, this method, and to see whether their learning is better and whether their academic success is much better than with the other techniques. So while teaching pronunciation, and if we want to offer learners a relaxed atmosphere in class while learning pronunciation, we can select teaching strategies which we think that are accurate and which we think that the learners will be able to benefit more. So when, for example, we blend traditional teaching methods with games or with some game-based techniques, then maybe the environment in class and the students will have a much enjoyable time, and they will be more motivated, and they will be more eager to participate in whatever activity or that we intend or we want to include in our class. Some of the teachers, some of the scholars, they might think, or they might ask the question like, why teaching pronunciation? Why is it important to include pronunciation in our teaching class? Why losing time to teach this aspect of a language? Let me tell you that it's very important because if, for example, the students have various pronunciation errors, the communication cannot be that effective. For example, let's say that there is a speaker who, for example, says the word soap while he should have said soup in a situation, for example, like in a restaurant, then this can cause a misunderstanding. And the people who are communicating, they cannot fully understand the message. Or, for example, let's say that there are those that really want to communicate or are in, let's say, in a working environment where English language is more used and is the primary language for communicating, then pronunciation is important because later there is some misunderstanding can happen, and of course the incorrect use of stress and intonation can lead to various problems. So, as I mentioned, there are a variety of important reasons why we should include pronunciation in our classes. But however, we should know that when teaching this particular skill or this particular language element in class, we should implement some other strategies and not only teach in a traditional way or with traditional techniques. For example, we know that children are playing games since childhood, and we know that they trying to learn, they trying to include everything in the most natural way as possible, and they do this by playing with everything. That's why the importance of games and the advantages of games are huge, are numerous. For example, one of them, we can say that it can build relationship among learners. So the learners, the weak students, they can start to engage more with the students who are more high achievers, the students who are more confident, they are more willing to participate. So we can put them in the same group with the same activity where they can learn from each other. So we can foster collaboration among them. Also, while we include games, we can say that students will have the same opportunity with the others. They will play the same game. They will feel more equal, etc. And of course, the overall atmosphere in class, we can see that it's totally different from the atmosphere that can be seen in a traditional setting. Another thing is that seats, if you, for example, as a teacher, if you want to rearrange your classroom, you can put your seats in the classroom in a different way. You can change them. You can do whatever you want so you can escape from a stereotypical environment. And by doing so, not only the students get curious and they want to see what's happening, but they are able to involve their emotions, which is of course very important and is vital for their learning process. As for pronunciation in particular, they seem to be an ideal tool. And I'm telling this because I have been doing this research and I have been teaching pronunciation through this method, through gamification, and especially through some game-based elements that I have used, because they ensure that pupils are motivated, the students are motivated, and they are engaged fully into the process of learning. Another thing is that they provide them with a more natural way of acquiring English pronunciation. So the pronunciation is acquired in a more natural way, as it is happening in a context outside of the class, as it is not happening inside the class or that environment, which of course might lead to better results at the end. Some other reasons that we can say and that were mentioned by many scholars, by many educators, what are some game elements, some games reasons that we can use for teaching, and what are some benefits of it. They mentioned that games in general, they help to make memory chains and blocks for remembering information, which is very important because the learners, after the class or after the session, they can be able to remember what they have learned. So the retention is more able to happen through gaming. Also, another thing is that we can include very amusing activities, which can of course lead towards self-learning, and the students sometimes they can become independent learners and they can engage fully to their process of learning. Another thing that is worth mentioning is that games facilitate learning and they provide nurturing context for it. So the students, they learn and verify their knowledge in games. So their knowledge can be seen in games, in their activity, in their interaction, etc. And of course, they can appeal to both logical thinking and the emotions of the learners. So the emotions of the learners are fully introduced or are fully engaged in the teaching process. As I mentioned, for my MA, while I was doing this research, I used an experimental research where I have tried to include two groups mainly. The first group was the experimental group, where whom I used the gamification technique, while for the other group, which was called the control group, which we call the control group, we used a more traditional type of instruction. Gamification in general can be considered, or can be, the definition for it can be that it's by using game-based mechanics, aesthetics, game thinking to engage people, motivate action, promote learning, and solve problems, as well as using some game-based elements in class. When we say game-based elements, we refer to, for example, we can assign points to questions instead of just saying to the student that this question is right or this question is wrong. So we can assign points. Another thing is that for attendance and participation in class, we can also give them points, whatever you might call them. Another thing is that if we want to add a sense of pressure in our students, for example, if we have an activity that we want the students to feel the pressure or to feel that they are competing with each other, then, for example, we can employ a countdown timer, so we can track their performance and we can see which one, for example, from the learners, or if the learners are in group, which one of them is better or faster did the activity. And another thing which is very important is by displaying the responses and their points to the learners visually through leaderboards. So we can the students can get immediate feedback and they can see what is their progress, what are their scores, so they can further maybe try harder, or this can maybe motivate them to work even better. Through this, we can increase learners' engagement, performance, academic accomplishment, and improve recall and retention, which is very important and crucial in the aspect of teaching. For this one, when we talk about motivation and how did this approach or did this technique motivated students in learning, we can say that there were two types of motivation. The one was the extrinsic motivation, and the other one was intrinsic motivation. When I say extrinsic motivation, I can say that students were mainly motivated because I gave them points, I gave them badges, I gave them certificates, and I even gave them some motivational words so they can feel that they did something good, and they can improve themselves even better. On the other hand, the intrinsic motivation, how did I see that they were intrinsically motivated? I can say that since learning was enjoyable and we did the learning by games, we can say that the learners, the students, they developed a genuine enthusiasm, which of course helped to boost, and of course it affected their motivation and achievement in a positive way. But we mentioned all those great things that can happen while teaching pronunciation through gamification, or while teaching other language aspects through gamification. There are also some drawbacks, some disadvantages of it. We can say that pronunciation can be ineffective if you, for example, try to use these game-based elements, the ones that I mentioned, which were points, leaderboards, badges, certificates, a lot in your classroom. So if you overuse these elements, then we can say that students can lower their interest, they can lose their attention, they might feel bored, which of course is not good to happen, and they can lose interest for the whole session. Another thing is that not every classroom has the opportunity to digitalize, to use the digital technology in class. Not every classroom has the opportunity to have smartphones or to have computers or laptops that you can use in class. How we can implement, or how we can use gamification in a setting where we don't have the technology? Well, we can use it because there are some ways, as I mentioned, that we can take those game-based elements in our classroom. For example, use a teacher. You can section off a whiteboard. And for example, if you are playing an activity with your learners, with your students, you can write their names, or you can write their the name of their groups if they are working in groups, and you can assign points to them. Also, you can reward them in different ways. For example, you can give a certificate, or you can give a stamp in their book, and of course a message from the teacher or something which might help them and might motivate them. Also, when I mentioned the leaderboards, you can do it also manually. You can, for example, write or construct a scoreboard where the teacher, for example, can put the points for the students individually, so the students can be able to see what is their success, what is their score until now, and you can show to them in a daily basis, or if you want it weekly, the weekly progress, etc. And of course, you can make it something that the students can take, for example, at home and show their success, their scores to their parents or to their friends, so to whomever they want to share it. Some important apps or some useful apps that we can use for gamifying our classroom are the apps like Duolingo, Classcraft. We have GreatCraft. Then we have Resly, Socrative. Another one is Kahoot, which I used for my research. And it was very useful because learners could see their scores, they could see their progress, and they could see if their answers were correct. So they got the immediate feedback. This methodology firstly emerged in the administrative and business field, and the implementation in teaching came later. But especially in English language pronunciation practice, which, as I mentioned, it was considered quite low and it was used quite low. During my sessions with the students, in the first session with my students from the experimental group, I did some various games. I included some various games that helped them to grab the pronunciation of different words. For example, I played the broken telephone game. Then I played with these words. I divided the students in pairs. I used a ring bell so the students can feel the competition while doing some activities. And also I tried to see if the students are not only pronouncing the word correctly, but they are able to also write it correctly. So that I checked both pronunciation and spelling of the words. This all happened in the first session. While in the second session, I mostly focused on the word stress. I focused on words that were two-syllable words and one-syllable words. For this exercise, for this activity, I used Kahoot, where, for example, students were able to join the link for Kahoot with their nicknames, and each learner had to choose for each word whether it is one-syllable word or it is two-syllable word. And of course, the learners' scores were visible on the whiteboard through the projector, so they could have seen what their progress were. Afterwards, another activity was implemented with the same vocabulary. The learners were divided in pairs. And for example, I took two baskets. In one of the baskets was about one-syllable words, and the other was for two-syllable words. And each pair has to decide where to put these two types of words. So they have to put in the separate baskets. And the pair who was first to finish the activity and made the correct selection won the game. And I gave, at the end, I gave some certificates and some badges that would tell their outstanding performance during the activities, which of course motivated them, and they wanted more similar session to this one. Later, for the control group, I didn't implement any other technique, but I mostly used the traditional way of teaching. I translated the words. I made them to drill the words, to repeat after me. And I explained the rules for word stress, for one-syllable words, two-syllable words, etc. So mainly it was a grammar translation method that I used, a more traditional instruction. From the results that I got during this research, I cannot say that these groups had a statistically significant difference. But however, the difference that we were able to see was on the positive attitude from the learners. So according to the findings, this approach had very positive effects on the learners, and especially in their improvement of their pronunciation. Where, for example, I have some, let's say, some feedback from the learners when I asked them about how was their experience with it. They told that it was a fun class, and the students were happy. They felt happy. They felt confident to do the activity. Some of them, they said that they prefer to be taught pronunciation by using these kind of techniques like gamification, because they think that it's not boring. If, for example, I would go with both groups in a traditional way of teaching, of course they would feel bored. They wouldn't want to participate, because I know that most of the time students, they don't learn pronunciation in classes. Pronunciation is totally neglected in most of the cases, and teachers don't usually pay attention to improving the pronunciation of their learners, because they think that this will happen later during the life. On the other hand, the atmosphere in class was very relaxed. They had fun, and they were engaged in different activities. And in the end, there are some, for example, if you ask me what would you recommend for our future research, I can say that there were some limitations regarding the this approach in class, and I had a very short period of time while implementing this approach, and that's why I think that if you want to make another research, you can do it in a more extensive or longitudinal version of the current study, and you can, for example, teach. Not only pronunciation, you can teach other aspects of language, for example, vocabulary, reading, writing. So you can use these aspects and you can teach them through this approach for an entire semester or for a whole school year. And of course, I still know that there is still a lack of research in this, a lack of studies in this area, and why not? You can do something, and you can implement something else in your future research. So basically, this is all what I wanted to share with you regarding this kind of technique. I hope that you really found this presentation useful, and I'm waiting for your questions if you have any. So feel free to ask. I hope that I was clear, and I really look forward to your questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your comprehensive and illustrative lecture on the topic using gamification to enhance EFL learners' pronunciation. The presentation was very useful for all the participants and delegates. But if any participant or delegate is having any question or any point to make, observation or opinion about the topic, I welcome participants and delegates. I think Aradhana ma'am is eager to ask question. Please, Aradhana ma'am.
Yeah, sure.
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
Ma'am, you talked about motivation, assessment of extrinsic and intrinsic motivation. I would like to know, ma'am, did you use any standardized tool to assess the motivation of the students?
Actually, while I assessed their motivation is through a questionnaire that I did with them. So I checked what were their perceptions, what were their attitudes toward this approach. So I asked question, how did you feel in class? And basically this was seen through their participation. Their engagement was wonderful. So they started, the weaker students that were in the beginning were not that confident to speak or to say their answers. They were willing to participate later. So in this way, I saw that their motivation was grown and their scores were going even higher from that one. And also from the questionnaire that I asked, that I did with them, and from the responses that I got, I can say that they were fully motivated with this technique.
Thank you, ma'am. Another thing I wanted to know, which platforms did you use for displaying which digital platforms actually did you use for displaying the leaderboard to the students? You mentioned Kahoot.
Yes, Kahoot was the one that I used, and the others I wanted to include also some. For example, not including only the digital technologies. For example, I divided the board, the whiteboard in section, and I tried to write their points in the board. So one was the Kahoot, and the other one was another thing that I implemented in class without using the technology.
Okay. Another ma'am, another question.
Yes.
Especially if we refer to the Indian context, I've noticed that certain mispronounced words are where sh is pronounced as sir. For example, shelter is pronounced as selter. So would you suggest any strategy which we can undertake to check this mispronunciation? If it's with children as well as adults?
For example, while doing different activities, you as a teacher, as I said, you can include games in your classroom, but also you can use it in a traditional way. For example, you can make your students to drill those words, or you can make the students to watch videos, different videos that you think that the words that are with this kind of phoneme or letters are pronounced from them. So I truly think that videos and people who speak, or mainly native speakers who are speaking or using these particular words with this particular sounds or phonemes, then maybe this can help the children. So, for example, for the learners in general, but for the children, you can implement some other videos that are according to their age, something that is appropriate for their age, and they maybe can benefit from that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am.
Thank you very much for your question.
Yeah.
Now I request Priya ma'am.
I would like to ask ma'am that what we can do for slow learner.
For
student.
For slow learners. Okay. In what way do you mean? How we can help them to learn or to pronounce the words?
How we can motivate them.
How we can motivate them, yes. If, for example, we have low achievers in class or slow learners, we can include them when, for example, we do an activity, group activity. For example, we can put those slow learners or low achievers with high achievers. So they can learn from each other. They can compete with each other from the other groups because, for example, if they are with someone that is better at learning something or is better at pronouncing the words, they can learn from each other in the group and they can feel motivated and they can feel that they can do better. Or, for example, you as a teacher, you can give some certificates if you see that your student is doing good or is trying to do better. You can motivate the student with some words. For example, you can express the gratitude, you can express something good to them. So they can feel that they are appreciated. They can feel that they are doing good. They are trying and they are accomplishing their let's say their goals. So this is one way that you can motivate your students, by putting them in groups with the high achievers, and of course by you yourself motivating them with the words.
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Dr. Swanand Shukla, sir, please.
Good evening, Dr. Bedkar sir. Good evening, Prakash sir. And thank you very much, ma'am. Wonderful presentation. And really, it is one of the very important issue that, how our pronunciations are. So I think, yes, definitely, you have, gone into the depth and you talked about your research, what you have done. So that is a wonderful to know. And we can see the impact, real impact when we are doing a comparison. So definitely, yeah, gamification, it brings a lot of enthusiasm among the students. And, I think there is an active involvement of the students, when we are going with the gamification. My question is, some apps are available like Provo or Ling or something, where we can learn the pronunciations. So that apps are there, and in the classroom, the teacher is coming and doing active gamification over there. So I think, which one you feel that it is more, it creates more impact on the mind of a student. That is my first question. And second question is, we are residing in India. In India also, we are having so many states, and we are having our linguistic influence. So we can identify very easily, this person must be from this particular area, because that influence of the local language, it appears in English. So that changes alters the pronunciations. So how to neutralize such kind of influences, when otherwise we can come to know, in India we are having South India, we consider, so we can come to know he must be from South India, he must be from West Bengal or something like that. And it must be a story throughout the globe. So I think, how we can neutralize that part, in our pronunciations, because this is a day-to-day work, we are using language, we are communicating, but our pronunciations should be perfect. So please comment, ma'am. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the questions. Very interesting questions. For the first one, you mentioned that, for example, which ones are better, the apps that we can use from pronunciation, or the gamification techniques in class. For example, I can say that both of them are important, and both of them are interesting. But why, for example, not blending them? For example, you can use both an app in the class and also another gamification technique, or another, let's say, app with your learners. Or, for example, you can tell the learners to use the apps at home, or you can use the gamification techniques in class. Both of them, I said that the apps that are used are gamified, and the gamification techniques that we use in class are kind of similar, because gamification technique or approach is about bringing those game-based elements that we see at digital technologies, at our smartphones, at apps in class. If, for example, we don't have such technologies in our class, we don't have it because, let's say, the school cannot afford, or something like that. So both of them, they have the same game-based elements. It's only, for example, which one you want to prefer to use it. Otherwise, they are all the same. The elements that are used in apps and the elements that we use while gamifying our activities in class, they are the same. For example, let's say that in Kahoot, there was the leaderboard that I used with my students. And this leaderboard was used for the students to see how much they scored. Did they do better? What is their final success? And another way that for example, I didn't want to include for another activity, the Kahoot, I just made the board on 2 sections, and I improvised a leaderboard. So mainly they are the same. So which one do you prefer to use, or which one you are available to use in your classroom, you can use it. And they are mostly the same. Okay, and is this the question, the answer, is it good?
Yeah, thank you. My second question was about the influence.
Yes, the second question about the local influence that you mentioned, and it's not only in your region or in your area, but also around the world, and also in the place where I live. The learners, the speakers of English, they have the influence of the mother tongue. always. But what I actually suggest my students, my learners, when it comes to pronunciation and how to improve it, is that I ask them to listen to English songs, to listen to news. For example, if they are interested in listening to news in English, I encourage them to watch as much videos as they can from native speakers, and I ask them to try to find someone that they think that has a native-like pronunciation, so they can learn from them. And this is a better way, or a good way, which can help the students to improve their pronunciation, the way their accent in English can be, etc. So I think that those are very perfect strategies that we can implement in our daily lives and with our students as well in class. So encourage them to watch videos, to try to speak with a native speaker or something like that. So maybe the pronunciation will come itself.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the students nowadays, the audience is more techno rather than, they don't want the traditional classes. And if you will offer something technology and the gamification with that, I think they will really appreciate. And what you said is correct. We can go with the movies, or we can, I asked them to listen BBC News. So the pronunciation, yeah. So wonderful explanation, Sam, and thank you very much for your today's presentation. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for your question. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Now I request Dr. Devidas Kendre, sir. Please, sir.
Good evening to all. Thank you, Honorable Principal and Chief Organizer of International E-Conference, Dr. M. Bedkar, sir, Convener of International E-Conference, Professor Prashant Karad, sir, and all organizing committee members. I think that it is a wonderful presentation, ma'am. This session is informative, knowledgeable, and excellent. In this case, my question is, what is the concept of gamification, ma'am?
What is the
concept of gamification?
The concept of gamification, right?
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes,
So the concept of gamification is mainly that we use in gamification. There are some game-based elements that are used, and it's mainly used for improving learning and asking the students to retain the words, or to retain the vocabulary, or retain the knowledge in general during their teaching. So it's mainly about using the game-based elements, such as the scores, the leaderboards, the certificates, the badges, and all the other elements that we can see in different apps. We can implement in our activities. So mainly it is for engaging, for motivating, and for let's say for making the students to interact more and to be more active students, and not, for example, only having the teacher centered in class. But why not transforming the class into a learner-centered class, where our students, our learners, they can be more actively engaged, and they can let's say improve something for themselves, and they can give more to the teaching and learning process both. So yeah.
Wonderful explanation, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Honorable Principal Dr. Bedkar, sir. Thank you, Prashant Karad, sir.
Now I request Rahul, sir, please.
Hello. Thank you, Dr. Bedkar, sir, and all the organizing team. Thank you, ma'am, for this very nice celebration. Actually, I'm asking that these gamifications, these are for active skills, actually, for pronunciation, like speaking, sometimes writing, for listening, and for reading. Can we do this, or this strategy will be effective as the other tools are, or other strategies are?
Yeah.
If it
For
is,
example,
then how we
Mhm.
can use it
okay.
for the classroom teaching for 8th to 10th or 12th standard?
Okay, so your question was, can we use it and how can we use it for the, let's say, listening skills and for the reading skills, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, so for let's say that if you want to introduce some listening exercises in your classroom and you want to check whether your students wanted to whether your students were able to understand what the listening was about, what the context was, what the speakers were talking, you can of course gamify your activities. You can, for example, ask questions, let's say through Kahoot. You can use Kahoot for asking the questions that are related to the listening that they were having. For example, let's say that they were listening something regarding any particular topic in English language, and you want, for example, to see whether their comprehension was successful, whether they understood something. You can ask the questions in Kahoot, and the students can, for example, click on the right answer, and then they can see their scores, they can see their answers, they get immediate feedback. And you can implement other things as well. Like, for example, you can include these strategies, for example, for competing, making competition within your students. You can put your students in groups, and they can, for example, you can make a quiz with them, and this quiz can happen. For example, the students who, or the group who has the answers, they can ring the bell or they can do something, and then you as a teacher, you can write their scores on the board, or you can show it in a leaderboard, so they can see how much they got. They can see if their performance was better than the performance with the of the other group. And the same can be implemented with the reading exercises. For example, you have some texts and you want to see whether they understood the text properly, whether there was, for example, let's say that there is some noun vocabulary in the text. You can take this vocabulary from the text and you can put them in an app like Kahoot. And you can ask your students to match something, to match the vocabulary with the other, with their meaning. And so the students, by playing, they can learn better. So they can see Kahoot as a way of playing. So they can say that we are learning by playing. And this can be a great strategy for both listening and for reading exercises.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And now I request, is there anybody else? Any more question from anybody, please?
Yes, last one.
Yes, please, sir.
It was a nice presentation. Ma'am, thank you very much. I would like to ask one thing. You carried out one experiment, but why didn't you get significant difference between the two groups despite this gamification?
Yeah. The reason why I
Please.
think that I didn't get significant results between these two approaches is that the students never practiced gamification in their classroom. This was the first one. The next one was that the students never practiced pronunciation in their English language classroom. So pronunciation exercises were always omitted. The teachers never wanted to include pronunciation because they thought that it will lose the time and the students can improve their pronunciation later. And another thing is that it was just a 2-week period for this research. And for this experimental study, and I worked with those students only 2 weeks, so it was a short period of time. That's why I mentioned in my recommendation for future research that if you want do the same research with another language aspect, you can make it a more longitudinal research. So you can have better results, and maybe you can say that this approach is more useful and more appropriate for teaching something. So if you can work on it, and if you can do a similar research, you can include this approach in a more longer period. It can be for a semester, it can be for the whole school year. It depends, whatever you want.
Thank you, ma'am. Can you throw briefly some light on the nature of the tool you used for assessing the scores of both the groups?
Sorry, can you repeat again?
Can you elaborate about your tool you used to assess the progress of both the groups, please? Thank you.
For assessing the progress of these two groups, I used I tried to make a test to check their level of English first. So I wanted to make sure that the students are at the appropriate level of English. So I don't have, for example, students from C1 level and students from A2 level. So I tried to gather students who are on the same level. Then after that, I did a pre-test with them. I checked how is their pronunciation at the very first moment. So I checked their pronunciation. Was it good? Was it correct or not? Then I marked them. I marked the errors. And later, I did the treatment. I did those activities with gamification and everything. And after that, at the end, I did a post-test. So I checked again. I again employed the same test that I used in pre-test to check whether there was any learning happening or not. So this is the way I did my assessment with them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, and thank you, Ujit sir. Is there anybody else?
Yeah.
I think now there is not any question. Very comprehensive, elaborate lecture on the topic, and very long discussion session, very meaningful and fruitful. Now after this, a keynote speech and question answer session, now it is time for all of us to listen the closing remarks of Honorable Principal, the Chief Organizer and Chairperson of this International E-Conference, Dr. Bedkar sir. Please.
Thank you, Professor Prakash Karad sir. But I request Renata ma'am, she was joined here. If still she is there, you can just give wishes. Renata ma'am, are you there? She was most of the sessions she attended. Okay, no problem. Her wishes are with us. I am thankful to her because she introduced today's resource person, Arzije madam. And thank you to both of you because it's the educational platform and mostly teachers are joining. And this topic was related to our education field, and basically it was your research, what you have did experiment on that, what tools you have used, how you get the outcome from the pronunciation effectiveness, and what the future plans of our research you also detail given to us. So many teachers have discussed with you and they are very satisfied with us, with you, with your speech. So today's session was very effective, useful to all, and you also said that this can be used to other languages also, other subjects also, because gamification may give more interactive learning teaching experience, and the students can get more knowledge and they will get interested to join, to listen, to learn more about that. And also there are tools are available. Simply just you go to the dictionary and click on that pronunciation, that speaker gives the word of pronunciation. So these types of tools we can use frequently, and in future there may be more tools to have correct pronunciation. Also the best alternative and effective tool you have said that you just watch our news, because news you have correct pronunciation and the students can get habitual to read the correct word, and it is also useful to the pronunciation, correct pronunciation of that. Thank you. It's a very fruitful discussion, long discussion, as our Professor Karad said, and he's the best teacher of English. We learn more thing about him, and we are proud of such teachers, those which I am learning and I am working with him. Thank you to you. Thank you to Revente Madam. And in future also, if you want to share some educational topic, you are always welcome. Thank you. Just wait for
Thank you very much. Thank you a lot.
just wait
Yeah,
for
thank you very much.
just
I
formal.
really appreciate it.
Thank you. Formal vote of thanks. Please wait for 1 minute.
Thank you, sir. And now I am here on behalf of organizing committee, Sri Kumar Swami College, Ausa, for vote of thanks. First of all, I would like to thank Honorable Ma'am for sparing her precious time and delivering a nice lecture on the topic, which was very elaborate, and I really enjoyed it as a teacher in English and lifelong learner of language. And this session is very useful. And so I thank you, ma'am, on behalf of the organizing committee. I also thank Honorable Principal Dr. M. Betkar, sir, who is the chief organizer and who is making all people to listen these lectures on different topics. And so thank you, sir. I also thank active participants, Aradhana ma'am, Priyanka ma'am, Dr. Swanand Shukla sir, Dr. Devidas Kendre sir, Professor Urjit sir, Rahul sir, and all active participants, and the punctual delegates of this international e-conference who are making this webinar series very successful. I also want to thank our IQAC coordinator, Dr. Sanjay Kale sir, Ughade sir, for their kind cooperation to run this webinar series and international conferences. Now, at the end, I would like to request participants, please fill feedback link to have your certificates. And with the kind permission of Chief Organizer, Honorable Principal Dr. M. Betkar sir, I declare here that today's international e-conference is over, but expecting your cooperation even in future for webinar series and international conferences. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you a lot. Thank you very much for your invitation. Thank you.
We keep open for 5 minutes. You can leave and take rest.